What's up, Pachenka? Valence is in the house. Beardo. What's up, Demetrius? Good to see you. We're finally at a reasonable time. Welcome to everybody on TikTok and YouTube and X and Twitch. Can't forget Twitch. Welcome to Simulation Talk 84. What's up, Eliran Shlomo? John, Jilly, Kelly, Say. Welcome, welcome. Wait for a couple more minutes just for more people to arrive. What's up, boy? You want to get up here? Come on. Welcome to Simulation Talk 84. This channel usually revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny and I'm claiming to have found actual proof we live in a simulation, and we meet here on the daily to discuss the experiment that I'm proposing, as well as the implications, and we'll discuss science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. So, before we dive right in, let's see what we have any... That's funny, McNuggies. I mean, it's probably gonna be fun, but and today I'm gonna be a little bit, apologies for my energy, I'm gonna be a little bit more low key. My energy is more down today, in a good way, just much more chill, I guess. So today I'm gonna try and be. Yesterday, I had a guest, and it was difficult to follow all the questions. So today I'm definitely gonna be engaging with more questions. Thank you for the likes, appreciate it. All the people also on X and YouTube and Twitch, if you guys wanna give the live a like, it will help draw more people, so we can have a more lively discussion. And if you're completely new to the channel, I kind of gave a little bit of an introduction, but if you do need me to reiterate what we're doing here, I have no problem with doing so. Just let me know in the comments that that's what you want me to do, and I can do that. Otherwise, I would assume that you either know or don't care. You figured out that we live in a simulation, right? That's my claim, yes, VSB. Well, to be more accurate, figured out is maybe the wrong term. I figured out an experiment that can substantiate that claim. So far, all we had is probabilistic approach from both physics and just from a philosophical standpoint. I guess what I'm introducing is the experimental side of it, which to some people is contentious, and I understand why, but that would be a more accurate representation of what I'm claiming to have found. No problem, quick recap coming right up. So this channel usually revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. The short version of the story is that I found out that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and inject a particular molecule that I cannot name here on the live chat because of legal purposes or legal reasons, you will see code running in surfaces. And this observation has been now verified over 1,000 times worldwide, and it got me connected with some of the leading researchers in the field. It does not mean that all of them agree with me and my conclusions, but we're definitely looking at something very interesting here, and I can present the case as to why I think it's substantial enough to take it very seriously. And but we meet here every single day to discuss not just that, we also discuss science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. That will be a quick recap. Um, are you also claiming a higher intelligence like God? So again, I'm trying to be very careful with my words. I think claim is a strong word here. I think since I discovered this, I became aware of certain things that are happening that, if I have to be fair, unless somebody's experiencing them for themselves, I don't see any reason for them to take any of that seriously, because I didn't and I wouldn't unless I would experience these things for myself. So, but if you ask me personally, I would say at this point there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that yes, there is definitely a higher intelligence. Came from the laser video. Welcome, welcome, Monsi. Um, so that's on that front. And one of my, I guess, biggest things that I'm trying to deliver in my conversations is to maybe have a style of conversation that a lot more understanding of the positions of people that didn't have direct experiences of this flavor, because I think that's the only thing that can substantiate certain convictions into existence for people. Anne is saying, "Hey Dan, I'm very intrigued and happy to have found your discovery. I got a laser, but worried the laser line is a bit thin. Are you using a convex lens?" If you go to codeofreality.com, you have the full list there, what you need to get exactly. And you don't have to get it through the links on the site. You can get it, you can source it yourself, as long as it matches the specs of exactly what you see in the site. That would give you a good direction. One thing I would emphasize, and I always do, under no circumstances, no matter what, never ever ever use a laser above 5 milliwatts, because it can actually do some cornea damage, even if you're not staring at it directly. Even if you're just looking at the wall on which it's projected, anything above 5 milliwatts, after a while, you can do cornea damage. So if your laser says anything above 5 milliwatts, definitely don't use it for that. And usually the ones that you're describing, which are used for leveling measuring tool, the ones that have like a very thin line, that's definitely not going to work for many reasons. One of them is that there's too much light in one area, so it's too thin, and it's going to drown the signal. There's too much light, you won't be able to see it. But also it's too powerful, which makes it too dangerous. So please buy something that is akin to what you see on the list. You can buy it anywhere, just make sure it's the same kind of specs. Yes, I was a theist, then was an atheist for a time, but after a lot of the molecule, I became a theist again. Yeah, and I honestly think that these definitions are a little bit, even though I understand why people would use them, they are a little bit charged, because they have a lot of baggage that came through the ages. You know, when you say theist, most people think you're thinking about the biblical God, and even though there's actually now a few reasons to believe that is also true, which is very surprising to me personally, but the truth is that I think that a more universal frame is required to truly talk about these things. So even the word theist, if you just mean in the sense that there is a higher intelligence, where you can say, look, for sure there are aliens that are more intelligent than us, right? Does that make you a theist? Because you should think about, like, what do you mean by that? Or do you mean a higher power as in like divine? Because that, again, at least from my experience, that's also true, which is super surprising to me. But it feels like that's a slightly different flavor of a claim, even though on the surface, on paper, it doesn't sound that there should be a difference between a very advanced civilization and a god. But I think we all kind of feel that there is a difference. Couples Light says avatars. Not sure to what effect you're saying that, but yeah. Demetrius says Mormonism honestly made the molecule make more sense. Really? Alexander says, I just discovered your research and I just want to thank you for your discovery of this concept and look forward to more of this study and more understanding. You're a modern genius, my friend. Well, thank you for all the compliments, but as you probably have guessed, I will immediately try and shake off any too much association with these words, because first of all, nobody likes people that others call them geniuses for not that big of a thing yet. Again, I do appreciate the compliments. Of course it feels good as a person to get compliments, but I think that the true element of discovery will be made by many humans collectively. And if today somebody asked me what is my main aim, I think that if I have to look at it honestly, I think that's my main aim, to get as many people who are interested to get like to work on this together, to feel this camaraderie of we're working on something truly new and profound for all of humanity. So, but again, thank you for the compliments, of course. Thank you, Dark Bakugo. Looking at the laser up close, I see a haze or static while sober. Do you think the static is related to the code? The static you see in is called the speckle effect, which in the beginning, when I just started talking about this about 3 years ago, was one of the first things that people obviously started trying to explain it away as, including some physicists. And, of course I understand that's, I mean, the claim that I'm putting forth is insane, right? So, of course, the first impulse is to, well, this dude is confused. Totally get it. And one of the first things was to try and explain it away as the speckle effect. Well, it's not the speckle effect for many reasons. One of them is that the speckle effect doesn't go away when you see the code. You still see the speckle effect. But also, the speckle effect is clearly some kind of a play of light. Like, you can see that it's some kind of a, play of light. Like, you can see that. The code doesn't exhibit this kind of properties. It just looks very concrete, like super coherent. It looks more like looking through a microscope than anything else, I always say. Actually, it's not a woman that was seeing the laser said this the first time, and then I thought, oh my god, this is exactly what it looks like. So yeah, the shiny thing you see is called the speckle effect. That's where you will be looking if you are trying to experiment, but it is not the thing that gives an illusion of the code, I assure you. And it's a long conversation as to why it isn't. But I think that in order for people to truly understand, they first have to see it for themselves, because it will collapse a lot of the questions about it. Spirits will be referred to as aliens by Christians, non-believers. Wait, hold on. Spirits will be referred to as aliens by Christians, non-believers? By Christians, non-believers? What does that mean? Demons or aliens have spoken to humans in many ways and forms. Sure. I just think that these definitions are a little crude to truly describe what these things are, but that's just me. How would you advise for someone that hasn't done the molecule do it for the first time safely? Great question. I would say that first of all, spend some time with it, and with a person that knows what they're doing. Definitely don't dive into this like willy-nilly. This is not a game. It's not a toy. I always recommend to do it with somebody who knows the terrain, even if it's not a shaman, somebody who really understands how to hold space, and understands the molecule. Don't do it around people that are not familiar with it. It's not a good idea, because it's a lot of power, and people, if they're not familiar, it's not a good idea. And I would say spend like good 4 or 5 times with it by yourself after you did it with the person, and without any lasers, without anything. Because first you have to create a relationship with the molecule and understand what it is and also how it behaves with you. And that's also important, because it's an actual energy, or whatever you want to call it. And then if you feel called, you might not, at that point, it's not for everybody, then okay, then if you feel like you're ready to go explore with the laser, by all means, but first create a relationship with it. And again, the protocol is how to do the laser experiment, including some preps, are on the website codeofreality.com. But again, I would say if you've never done it, first spend a good 4 or 5 attempts just with it, and with somebody who really knows what they're doing, without any lasers, without anything. The initial discovery is your credit, and you almost must take credit for attracting people of like-minded ideas to further help understand the meaning of life and the secret of reality. No easy task. I'll take that. I do feel like I'm kind of collecting and bringing people together to do the thing and getting enough smart people on board. So I'll take that compliment. I appreciate it. To note, I am fully on board with your claim and thank you for answering this. Absolutely, Anne. Of course. Thank you for being here. Fractions. I wonder if the speckle effect is somehow related to opening a portal of sorts to what is being it. Maybe. Possible. What did the code consist of? Zeros to fours in Japanese, like characters, did you say? About that, yeah. It's close. Japanese, sometimes you see kind of like things that are closer to Hebrew, like a lot of alifs, like Hebrew, and then you have 0 to 5s. But like I always say, they're just approximations. It looks more like an alien language, and it's just the closest thing to it. Thank you, brother. Dennis discovered the innovative concepts that are being repeated hundreds of times, and this type of work is truly unifying for mankind as a whole, more than any modern day politicians do. Well, yeah, well, again, you're putting me on a very high pedestal. The truth is that politicians, I don't think, are ever in the business of, Nico, how are you, brother? Thank you. Of actually bringing people together. But that's okay. I don't think it's actually what they're for. I know that in some ideal world, that's what they're supposed to be for, but I don't think it ever was for that. No, I'm not trolling you. This thing is for real. Any thoughts on Defengo? What is that? I don't know what that is. Thank you so much, friend. Defengo? What is that? Sorry, I'm not familiar. Can you? Is that like a subreddit or something? What is that? If you can tell me. So you think we live in a simulation? For me, Majilat, did I pronounce your name correctly? I don't think at this point for me I know, and there's actually there is a difference there. I am just learning about all this, and it's refreshing. He can speak simply for people like me to understand. You talking about me, Couples Night? Wow, so many compliments today. I appreciate you guys. This is my ego is gonna be out of control by the end of this conversation. Be like, babe, you don't understand. I'm such a great guy. Was turned onto your channel today by Night Shift channel. My apologies for being late. Apologies for being late, guys. You're so like overly polite, seriously. And also, yeah, they texted me. I'll definitely come on their channel. Seems like a really great vibe. Thank you for being here, Sage. Why do people say they all go to the same place as why they are mapping it? You're talking about the extended state study? I do not see anything on a lens, but looks like you are using one. My laser is a bit thinner than the discovery video. Is that still okay? Again, go to codeofreality.com. Codeofreality.com. Just look at the specs of the list that we provide there for the laser. Get it anywhere you want. You can source it anywhere. Alibaba, you can get it the cheapest you possibly can. Just make sure the specs are the same, with a huge emphasis, never, ever above 5 milliwatts. Never. Usually the lasers with the thinner line, they have more than close to 100 milliwatts. This can actually burn a hole in your eye, even if you're just looking at the wall, eventually. So, please never above 5 milliwatts. And yeah, you definitely need it thicker because you won't be able to see. The CIA, and by the way, TikTok, I'm not forgetting about you. I will do basically a lot of from YouTube and then a lot from TikTok. Geico Insurance is here. What's up, Geico Insurance? Do you cover multi-dimensional accidents? Microscope to capture it? Yes, that was on the. Could you explain it to me real quick, if possibly? Yeah, absolutely, Geico Insurance. I'll explain it in one moment. Prism won't work because it's a laser. A laser is already separate, like one wavelength, so you can't separate it. But there's definitely a lot of things that I'm going to be trying with holography. Today there's a lot of kind of things happened around this field of study, so this is going to be the next big experimentation. Magnets and holography. Why do you only see the binary code in the laser? You don't see a binary code. You see what looks like kind of like in the movie, Japanese katakana mixed with some regular numbers and some Hebrew letters. The CIA dump and my exploration of higher dimensions reality really piqued my interest, and I believe in dimensional theory. Thank you for sharing, Alexander. And what are the reasons, or why are we in a simulation? What do you think? So a few years ago, I discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a molecule that I cannot name here on the live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. And this is true 100% of the time. And this has over 1,000 replications worldwide, which now is becoming pretty substantial and robust. Oh, 1 second, everybody. Un momento, por favor. Sorry about that. 1 second. Okay. Wait, where's my browser? Here's my browser. Why are you guys sliding? Why are you guys doing that? Stop sliding. Stay in place, guys. Come on. Welcome, Paidi. Wait, how do you pronounce your name? Correct me, please. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so that's the short answer. Mahilat, or Majilat. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And then you can watch my videos on the subject if you want it. If you look through the YouTube channel, the thumbnail of that video, there's like a guy with VR glasses, and it's blue and purple, and it says, "I discovered blue in a simulation," something like that. That's the first video I ever put out on the subject. Should be like 2.5 years ago or something like that. Shouldn't be much scrolling. I never remember the exact name of the video, but you can find it relatively easy because most of my videos here are interviews, so it will stand out definitely. Alexander says CIA okay. 1 second. One final thing. Okay, we'll do this after. I'm back, TikTok. Okay, no more interference, I promise. Okay, something about CIA again. Okay, the CIA literally does everything but by fiat, but say that simulation theory exists. The US government takes the concept very serious. I don't know to what degree it's true. Maybe this... So again, it's not I'm saying it's impossible. Of course it's possible. The CIA does all kinds of crazy things. We know that for sure. As far as that, them knowing that for sure, I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe. It's possible. And by the way, just so you guys know, all that stuff about the release of the forms and the gateway and all that stuff, that was never a secret. That was always open source by the Monroe Institute. I think the only thing that was secret was the fact that the CIA was doing something with it. But the material was always available. So does the study show we really go to the same place once we take a spirit molecule? It strongly implies that you're going to a real space. But there's different places you can go, but there are real places, yes. I asked ChatGPT if we are in a simulation, how would it escape it? And it said it would search anomalies. What do you think? What do you discover in an anomaly? So the truth is that the picture that I'm seeing is that there is no escaping the simulation, because the claim is not that we're trapped in a computer software and there's some base reality. The claim is that the world at bottom is computational And in that context, simulation just means a sliver of reality, just one slice of reality. So if you're going to get out, you're just going to be in a larger computational space. That's it. There's no escaping it, just like there's no escaping the laws of physics. Without diving deep into different rabbit holes, yes, there's so much knowledge that is already understood by various governments. We are average citizens need to find. So I would push back on that just a little bit, because the government is actually one of the most incapable organizations that exist, because they drown in bureaucracy. It's very simple. Maybe there's some organizations inside the government, but they're usually probably mostly funded by private entities. These are the ones that actually probably know some interesting things. The government is a very boring and incapable entity overall in general. As Nico always reminds us, you want to know what the government is? The DMV. That's the government. How do your findings parallel God Almighty's teachings? Well, you would definitely have a thing like that inside the simulation for sure. They have knowledge of such tech, that means they will weaponize it either. So yeah, so again, these are very murky grounds. If I have to give you my intuition, opinion, and conviction at this point from everything I'm seeing, no, they don't know this. This is brand new. Nobody actually knew this before, like not to this level of certainty. And B, they wouldn't be able to weaponize it because it's kind of like weapon safe. Like if you try and weaponize it, it will not open as a possibility for you. Does that make sense? Have you looked at the stars and taken it? Some reports seeing a grid. Yeah, a lot of people say that. Salute, President Zaddy. Good to see you. How can we trust the CIA? Dump everything real, everything. You don't need to trust them. You just don't need to worry about it because there's nothing you can do about it. I say worry about things that you can actually change. By the way, just a quick reminder to everybody across platforms, if you guys can give the lives a like, it definitely helps the chat and brings more people. So that will be helpful across everywhere. YouTube, X, Twitch, and definitely TikTok as well. Thank you guys. What happens when you stick your finger to the code? You can see through the wall. You can't stick your finger through the wall, right? Or you can. Got an ad after posting this comment. What are your thoughts reading the Bible? Oh, I said that. Doesn't it show you what I'm saying after? I wonder. This is a good data point for me, because I answered you right away. So you didn't see an answer about this? That's actually good to know for me. Thank you. Yeah, I'm also on TikTok. The van that ran. The van that ran. That's a really great handle. So yeah, on TikTok you there's usually, well, actually right now there's the same amount of people. Actually on YouTube you have more people now. So, and you don't have limitation on how many characters you can put in. So I would say at this point YouTube is better. Dan, are you able to do more in-depth studies with the laser, introducing different tools to obtain different outcomes? Yes, Alexander, and this is all in the works. More powerful magnets, working with holography. This is going to be the next few steps. It requires some budget, not too crazy, but we just have to figure this out. Either have to figure out a clever way of doing this for cheaper. But all these things cost money. Like you have to set up an equipment, you have to purchase the equipment, you have to set up a time, you probably have to hire a scientist to do a proper study. All these things cost money. So we do what we can, but in the end of the day, somebody has to come and just write a check so we can actually do these experiments. If I try to do the laser experience with shrooms, will I get almost similar result? I don't know if similar, but you will definitely see something, yes. If you go anything above 3.5 grams, I would say you would see it. How are you ingesting the molecule? Again, the full protocol is on codeofreality.com. Codeofreality.com. There we go. And there's a protocol there, including how to do it and all that stuff. It will be much easier because we put good work into like specifying all of these things. Gases doing the experiment. Gases won't do much. Well, again, the mic, because it's random scattering. You need something a little bit more that can return light from one direction. Okay, let me see. I reckon we are 8 and some. Okay, I'm gonna go absolutely. And by the way, if you guys have any more questions after you read the protocol and browse the website, you can always email me. It's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Okay, TikTok, I'm with you now. Is it like those pictures that you have to focus your eyes? Magic eye? Yeah, very similar gesture that you have to do. Great question. You love my reflection. Well, thank you so much, Divine Sleep. I appreciate you. What's up, Chelsea? Why do you only see the binary code in the laser? Okay, so we went through this. Geico Insurance is. Do you still need a clarification? I feel like Oh, okay. You said yes. Good. What's up, Spore Muse? Good to see you. Good. I'm glad you found me, Chelsea. Thank you for sharing the live. I need to figure out how to get some molecule. Wow, that's a big one for everybody. Danny, could you explain it to me real quick if possible? Project a 650 nanometer diffracted laser on the surface. Just red laser, has to be diffracted, has to be 5 milliwatts. Ingest a molecule that I cannot name. You can Google the spirit molecule. There you go. We already were. Somebody put restrictions on us already immediately. I don't know what for, but. And you will see. Oh, maybe because I said the mushies thing. See? TikTok is so finicky. It's crazy. And you will see code running in surfaces. Have you tried to see it with Prism or yeah, so the truth about, I think I answered this already, but the truth is with lasers, you already have one frequency light, so it's not going to do much. What's up, Grayson? Good to see you. What's up, Bobo? Love the wallpaper. Yeah, it's not mine, but how many people have done the experiment? I don't know. Over 1,000 for sure. Successfully, I mean. Can you write an email here, please? I think so. It's just so convoluted to do it in TikTok, but I can, yeah. See? They make it so difficult. Here it is. Oh, first of all, I'll put the website to codeofreality.com. That's the website. And... oh wow, and I have to do the whole thing again? Jesus. And then my email is lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Okay. Here we go. Now I have to scroll back up. TikTok. I know you like to give us warnings, but how about you also fix the interface? Thank you. It's so convoluted. Let's see where we are with our comments. Do you think you'll get to a point that you'll be able to see it without the molecule? I think to some degree I already can, but it's not as coherent. And then the question arises, is my brain at that point filling it in because it knows it's there? Because it's not as coherent. It's kind of like, and it only happens when I'm really tired. So maybe, and I met some people that see it without the molecule, but they don't, when I ask them, they don't see it as coherently. By the way, everybody on TikTok, if you want to watch the longer versions of my TikTok videos here, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts, or you can just follow the link tree in the description in my profile, and there's more information there. But yeah, the short answer is I think maybe, but it's hard to know if it's really that or now my brain kind of fills it in. Maybe try and sing it on monoatomic gold. Sumerian Egyptians and use it helps. Sure. I personally drift a lot less towards all of these, I guess, what would you call it? Hermetic kind of ideas. I feel that this runs along much more concrete scientific lines, but I'm not ruling anything out. You never know. You never know what wisdom was actually hiding. Bro, it was good to see you. I'm sending you an invite in case you want to come on. What's your YouTube channel name? Dango Thoughts. 3 words. DANGO Thoughts. I'll put it there as well. Reality seems layered. Skylar, how are you? Hi, friend. I have bad news. Tampa, St. Peter's is in the eye for Hurricane Milton. That's landing. Oh man, that's not good. Actually, my fiance's parents told us. Yeah. Well, we're gonna be sending good vibes, and hopefully everything's gonna be okay. Works on your skin as well, Josh. Yeah. Yeah. Let me give you my YouTube channel here. You can always follow the link tree in my description of my profile, but it's Dango Thoughts on YouTube. There you go. I'm sorry to hear this, Skylar. That's not good. Reality seems layered. Anthenogens widen the spectrum. Wide spectrum of spectrum. I have also seen the code. That's amazing, Josh. Thank you for sharing this. And feel free to send me your account, your story about it, by the way, to lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I feel like the escape is just waking up and becoming aware so that you can rise above the chaos. Yeah, I guess that is true. I think it's a very complicated subject, though. How are you, Rose? Good to see you.
Hi. Oh gosh, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm driving.
Oh, I don't know how you have such a perfect audio if you're driving. You always have like the most perfect audio.
Really? Oh, well, I've got
Yeah.
my little headphones. Anyway, hi Danny, how's it going?
Amazing. How are you?
Good. I can't talk long, but maybe we can you're gonna do this again tomorrow, right?
Every day.
Okay, great. Maybe tomorrow will be better, but
Sure.
Any questions you had? I mean, you and I were emailing a little bit, so just some context for anybody listening. I am pursuing a master's in theological studies at Harvard, specifically Harvard Divinity School, and the psychedelics community at Harvard is very robust these days. And so we had just chatted briefly about kind of like linking some academic connections to your work.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah. And yeah, I guess first of all, if I have to be honest, I've heard the term before. So when you said it, it rang very familiar. But I actually didn't. You know, it's like one of these things just in the back of your mind. You never make that connection. I had no idea that Harvard has a divinity school. But then when you said Harvard Divinity School, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like I've heard this before. How was this like a thing always?
Yeah, it actually is how it was originally a divinity school. So it's the oldest school at the school, and we're behind, like building wise, we're tucked away behind the big biology center, and even folks on campus don't always know because it's so pushed back in its own private area. So it is sort of silly.
Wow.
But yeah, it's the oldest one and still going strong, and I think better now because it's more religiously pluralistic, and they've opened something called the Center for the Study of World Religions, which is where the psychedelics conference is hosted out of, the psychedelics reading groups, the plant consciousness groups, all of that is coming out of the Center for the Study of World Religions, which is this really groovy building and organization that's just an extension of the Divinity School. It's across the street.
That's amazing. By the way, Zaza Wow Wow on X. I'm always very excited to get a comment from X because I don't get a lot of those. So I'll answer your question in when we're done chatting here. It's a great question. I'll answer it in a bit. Another question I have for you, Rose, is
Sure.
you were talking yesterday about another surprising element, and I'm pretty sure you know it's surprising, that the connection between the Divinity School and how open and seriously they take the whole enterprise of psychedelic and their potential in helping us open our... That is very surprising. So tell me a little bit, I guess the wider question would be, the Divinity School is coming from a Christian perspective, or just a full, like, gamut, just religious predispensation to look at the world, and then all the different religious studies that exist is what it teaches? What is the thing there?
Yeah, and definitely I would say, historically Protestant and now so religiously pluralistic that I I could be wrong about this, but it feels like the Christians are in the minority on campus.
Whoa.
Really big, a lot of Jewish studies, a lot of Hindu Buddhist studies, just Eastern Asian studies, and then a lot of Islam, and then a lot of just religious nuns, which are just folks who are either spiritual or atheist, agnostic, and are pursuing degrees in divinity or theological studies because of other work they want to do. A lot of people take that degree, and we were talking about this a little bit, but wind up in a therapy setting, helping people integrate psychedelic experiences like ketamine and MDMA, stuff that's kind of happening in a PTSD context in hospitals and stuff these days. Somebody might go get a degree to become a therapist and then accompany that degree with a degree in divinity. Thank you.
Wow. What drew you personally to that? Are you coming from that kind of background? So your parents were religious, so this is something that personally attracted you?
Me, not at all. No, my studies have to do with birth spirituality specifically, and then I don't want to mislead anybody. I am also on a leave of absence and might not return. But only because no shade to the div school, just for my specific area of interest, which has to do with birth. It wasn't like the best way to look into that.
Not a good fit.
But regardless of my work, the psychedelics community, huge, and it's for the undergrads as well. I think they have a psychedelics club and organization, and just a ton of interest, and there was just so much history at Harvard, and specifically with psychedelics in the United States. It's where Tim Leary was a professor, Richard Alpert, who became Ram Dass, was a professor. They were both fired. The Good Friday experiment, if anybody's heard of that or is familiar with that, that happened at Harvard Divinity School. Those were Harvard Divinity students that were experimented on. And
wow.
It's just kind of, and then everything had to go underground, obviously, for many decades, and now it's back. Feels like a fun time. I would say the psychedelics interest in studies is the most interesting thing happening at Harvard right now across a lot of schools. Definitely at the Divinity School, in the medical school, even in the law school, because it's a big legal issue, right? The second, so.
That is crazy. So they're a lot more open to that, and thank you, Sandra, appreciate it. There's so many questions that I actually want to pull here.
Okay, wait. Let's just say, that was a huge introduction, and then let's talk tomorrow, because I will have way more time tomorrow if we can do this at the same time.
And I'll think of more concrete questions. I think most of them are actually revolving around, well, your trajectory in life. But I am interested because it does feel to me that just one quick thing that I would say as a comment before you jump off.
Sure.
It does feel that. It's interesting because I'm watching from just my perspective, and my whole life I was, I guess, what you would call an atheist, because the religious part just never made sense to me. And now that I'm kind of aware of a lot of these things, and even the straight up Jesus bit seems to be kind of folded into the system, and I'm like beyond shocked and surprised, first of all, but also. There's these events
I don't even know what you mean by that, and I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, but like you,
yeah, love that.
Do you know who Hayyan Hirsi Ali is?
No.
So she was like this kind of like a very outspoken person, also on the atheistic side, always kind of like a very good friends with Sam Harris. I mean, I'm sure they're still good friends, but like very much, she's Dutch. She was part of the Dutch Parliament. Came, from a kind of like a very she got very scarred from some Muslim traditions, so she was very outspoken against that. She was also mocking and making a lot of kind of like fun of Christianity. And only recently I saw her on stage with Richard Dawkins. I was like, what is going on? That's crazy. She, like, if you know who the person is, and all of a sudden she's telling him that last year she had an experience. And since then, she's basically accepting Jesus Christ into Lord and Savior, and it was like, what?
Wow.
And she's like, and she told Richard, like, I understand. She even told him, like, look, I see you as a mentor, but it's not as straightforward as what the way that you're presenting it, and I'm telling you that there's an experience that you can have, and I'm choosing to accept that there's more than this.
Wow.
And she said, I think she said, I don't remember if this is something that I read between the lines, if she said that, because so I don't want to put words in her mouth, but you guys can probably watch this conversation. If you just Google Hayan Hercieli Richard Dawkins, and she told him, let's just agree to disagree for now, because I know we're not going to resolve it tonight, but you know me well enough to know that I wouldn't be just saying that. And this is happening at a very crucial time, and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there, but
Beautiful.
I would love to hear more about your stuff when you have a little bit more time to talk. So let's do it tomorrow.
Ditto, and let's do it tomorrow, because I really want to follow up on what it sounds like you're saying. I've never been more intrigued by a sentence in my life, I think, than it turns out Jesus might be folded into this whole thing.
No,
Like,
not might be,
what?
is 100% there.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is so interesting to me, especially always coming at these theological studies as a non-Christian. So he's just like such an enigma as a figure to me always, but so central in so many people's lives. It can't really be denied that, at least symbolically, for humanity, really, central, I don't know, figure we've chosen. And I cannot wait to hear what you know and what you've experienced. I really, truly can't wait to talk about this.
Okay. Amazing. Well, I'm excited to chat
Okay.
about it tomorrow. So thank you so much for coming.
Okay. Talk soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Dinner will be ready soon.
Sure. I can jump off at any moment if you just tell me. Yeah.
You've been streaming for hours.
No, I was in a meeting before.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So
no.
Mona's very curious what you're up to.
I can tell you. I mean, you guys can always just chill if you want, but otherwise I can tell you. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, we're perplexed.
this is the lovely director and his beautiful girlfriend, and they overhearing my conversation. They don't really know what I'm up to, so. So let me actually. This will give you a good understanding of what we're doing here. So Zaza Wow Wow, which I'm very excited about your comment from X, because we don't get a lot of those. You're saying, considering that you aren't a computer scientist, how do you know it's code? Also, would be nice for you to present some imagery about what you're seeing. So first of all, yes, you do need to have a certain set of expertise to talk about anything that has to do with computer science. But I would say that in this case, the broad strokes description of what code represents in the computational world is straightforward enough to actually fold it into the picture and make it coherent. So what code is, the way that we know it, is a way to talk to different layers of the computational system through compilers that then trickles down all the way to binary, that then gives directions to the machine, the machine level, to execute certain patterns that amount to ones and zeros. But the ones and zeros, they're just a symbolic representation. It can be any binary state. It can be on and off, it can be purple or green. It doesn't really matter as long as you have two states that you can oscillate in between. And what's interesting from a philosophical standpoint that ties to a very technical standpoint is that computation does not arise from any laws of physics. And this is something that very often computer scientists ignore because it's not really something that matters for what they're doing. But if you're looking at trying to explain the full picture of what's going on, this is now becomes important. The fact that computation is possible in the world is a very interesting data point. You can compute with waves in the ocean. So you have the wave, and then you have the lack of wave, and that will be your 0 and 1. It will just take forever. So by the fact that you're using logic gates and you're using very quick signals that you can go a few channels at once, it allows you to create computation in any relevant temporal unit period. So that is the fundamental basis of which I'm using to say that what we see is code, because first of all, it appears as such, it appears as language. And you're right that the technical explanation at bottom can eventually be, well, it's not code in the way that we use the word code. Like, it's not a thing you tell the system to do. You might be right about that, but we are in the rudimentary portions of this conversation. So it's easier to say words that people understand that we can then, clarify as we go. I do think that at the moment the words simulation and code are the closest to what it really is, if you consider the attributes of these things as we use them. One clarification I can already offer you, that I do think that this code operates in a much more sophisticated manner than the code that we do. So the code that we do is, we code something into the machine. Doesn't matter if it's Python, JavaScript, doesn't matter what language you use. The second you put it into the computer, what it really says is, it says a bunch of linear chain of commands, again, all the way to the compiler, all the way to the machine level, to execute the pattern in logic gates, that then gives rise to the functionality that then trickles back up the system and then gives rise to everything you see. But notice that literally you can do anything. You can recreate image, you can recreate sound, you can communicate, you can do literally infinite number of things with computation. So the point is, the claim is, that computation is a higher space function that we discovered. We didn't invent it, we discovered it, and we're utilizing some of it by building computers around it. But the actual functional thing is computation, which is the abstraction itself. Now this point is a little contentious, because most physicists will insist that computation is a physical process. But I've talked about this the other evening, so I'm not going to expand on that too much now, but I think there's a conflation there. And it's the same conflation that people make when they say that the crackling in the brain is equivalent to the experience, which it definitely isn't. There is no explanatory framework that tells us how, if you believe it's just physical matter that just does a thing, how from that physical inert matter all of a sudden consciousness arises just by arranging matter in this particular way. Even if you have the exact description of what are the conditions required to then give rise to consciousness, you still did no work at explaining exactly why that happens. And this is exactly the same thing. When people say computation is a physical process, my contention is that it's the same conflation. You can say every time computation happens, it happens in our space through a physical process. That's absolutely true. However, I would say that there's a deeper function, which is the abstraction of computation itself, that is actually doing the work, and that part needs to be investigated. So now, I'm saying all of this to say that I believe that code that we're seeing in the laser is actually creating a function by the instantiation itself. So what I mean by that, it's so sophisticated that when you instantiate it in its environment, by the way that it appears, with the patterns that it appears, it plays the role of all the layers of computation that we have, from code all the way to compilers, all the way to machine. It actually does that all at once. So the software or the environment or the simulation already knows what it means to have these particular shapes in this particular arrangement in it. So when you introduce that shape in this particular arrangement, this particular frequency, it creates a function in the system itself. In other words, you can paint with the code, and just the painting with the code will create the function. To give you a concrete example, if I'm correct, of course, only then you would have a situation in which, if you're using this particular code and you know how to utilize it, you can, let's say, have a physical craft that, let's say, if you introduce a certain amount of magnetic field, it can exert what we would call anti-gravity. But it will only do that if you put particular symbols on it. Like, even if you write it with a Sharpie, let's say. Just because the environment itself, space-time itself, has these, I guess you can say, receptors that know that when these shapes are present on any physical shape, it can allow for that extra functionality to happen. So let's say you have that craft and it is capable of doing so, but if you don't have these symbols on it in exactly the right order, in exactly the right place and the right size and whatever other parameters you need to make it fit, it won't levitate under the same magnetic field. But if you put these things, even with a Sharpie, it will. So that's actually the claim. the code is a lot more sophisticated than our code, but I think the word code still fits. So I hope this was comprehensive enough. And thank you for being with us from X. Hey, how could you see those numbers if everything is man-made? What is man-made? I'm not sure what you're referring to, John. And also, don't forget that even with everything that is man-made, it's the universe made. You are still part of the universe. Whatever you're doing is not separated from what the universe is doing. I was on monoatomic gold too. Now I need to get me some nano gold. I like supplements like that. I see. Do you acknowledge Jesus Christ of Nazareth as our Savior? I acknowledge that there's a function like that I've seen concretely that exists there. I don't know about the second part. Possible. It's just that I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this because I do see that there's also a larger picture. So maybe that larger picture is not relevant to our current moment in history. I'm not sure. But I definitely acknowledge that I've seen Jesus in that space. And I can't believe that my mouth is opening to say that. But there was no mistaking that. It was definitely there. Psychedelics is also being suggested in the mental health field for regression therapy. That is true. He is above IT. That's a great question, Lily. So Lily is asking, do you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, as he is above IT? I was translated. I'm not sure. The thing that where I'm pausing is because I'm not sure he's above the IT. He might be inside of it. And then there's a higher reality that is actually technical, but inside of it there's this element of what you would call God and Jesus, and as a checks and balances system inside. It's possible that it's the other way around, but from what I saw, to me it seemed like no, like there's a higher system and then Jesus and all of that is inside. But of course I can be wrong. I played golf in Harvard. Cool. I wonder if she knows about the Babylonian project. Okay. Yeah, this is I'll be honest, this is a very difficult subject for me and also very uncomfortable, and I'm okay with having it, but I'm always, it's strange to me because first of all, that's a weird thing to be wrong about. Second of all, at the same time, I still maintain that it feels weird to me that the one thing that I personally consider still to be the most wholesome thing that humans has ever made, which is the commitment to understand the world in a real way and the progress that we made scientifically, is now being demonized by so many people when it's like the most ungrateful act that I've ever seen personally. It gave us everything, including disability right now. And it seems like, okay, no, you know too much. This gatekeeping, it just feels so not wholesome to me. It feels so not divine. It feels the opposite of that to me. The gatekeeping feels weird. It feels like if knowledge is just the engagement with the world, which feels actually profound and wholesome to me, why would there be this arbitrary point where you get to a certain level of understanding and no, now you know enough? That feels like I mean, it just feels like a totalitarian regime. It doesn't feel like an open and beautiful system. So this is why I'm having a hard time with it. I feel like there's a lot of ways to look at this still. So the only thing I can say with any amount of certainty, don't be so sure of anything. And I'm saying this to everybody, including myself. Don't be so sure of anything. If you have this like level of conviction about a thing, don't. There's too many variables here. But one thing also that is clear, regardless to Jesus or anything else, you should definitely live the most ethical life you can. Because why not? You will be happier, that's for sure. Send you an email. I hope you can reply soon. Yeah, I reply to all my emails. As you can imagine, sometimes I have like a flood of emails, and then it's very difficult for me to answer all of them.
Dinner at 5.
5, cool. So we have about 5 minutes to chat. But yeah, see, that's what I mean. The President Zaddy is saying. Wait, what? I don't know what you're talking about. So, yeah, these things, guys. I again, what all I can say is just. Are you familiar with the principle of speak no evil? So you might want to follow that, including mentioning certain names, including using the word God too often, willy nilly, like it's nothing. All of these things are folded into the system for sure. And the finger pointing will get you in more trouble than it would get you out of. So, good idea to not follow these trends. Does the code behave and look the same regardless of the surface you're viewing it? Yes. Would the code we view in walls of our homes look the same when viewed on a megalithic like Stonehenge? Well, I don't know. I haven't done it on Stonehenge. But my guess would be yes. Men's teachings and philosophy are way behind. Time is short. Get on the side of Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Greg! So good to see you, man. Love you, brother. Yeah, this kind of like Lily. I know you think it's coming from a place of love, but this is like, if you would be outside of yourself for a second, you would see that it has like this weird mobster threat mentality, which is like, hey, be smart, kid. You know, you want to get on the right side. You don't want to be on the wrong side, huh? It's literally like a threat. It's not wholesome. It's the opposite of that. Okay, let me see if I can fast forward here. To be fair, the way these are some cross triggers something in me some way. Adamant that simulation theory is nonsense, but it could be an identities bias, to be honest. I've spent much time studying the idea of computational universe, and I'm coming, and sort conclude on the fact that all current thoughts and predicted utilization of language of the pertinent technology, hydraulics and mechanics, were believed to be the fundamental nature of the universe and biological mechanisms in their time. So I don't. So one thing that might. So first of all, I appreciate your comments. One thing that might make it easier for you to swallow as well, Zazawawa, is I never had interest in it as well. I'm just like you. I found it arbitrary. The simulation theory, uninteresting and not neat. It messed things up more than it cleaned them. It created this like weird separation line where, okay, if it's simulated, then would you tell me that from the point of the simulation where it's being simulated, it's arbitrary? Because, we don't know all the whims of the civilization that runs it, right? So it can be infinite number of reasons as to why they chose these exact parameters, and it just makes it kind of like messy. It's like, it doesn't solve any problems. Okay, coming. All right, everybody. So I hope this helps because I came from the same place. And the only reason I had to accept it is because I saw what I saw. So hopefully you're going to keep following. Sorry I'm jumping off so quickly. Come back tomorrow. We'll do a lot of great discussion more. And anybody who wants to have a more private conversation about something they think is very important, you can always email me, lasersimulationx@gmail.com. You can follow me on YouTube, Dango Thoughts. X is Goler Danny. Twitch is LaserX83. And TikTok is also Danny Goler. Alright, guys. Peace and love. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Ciao.